Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Belcher, and today we are going to be talking about different forms of abuse. In Indiana, there is a code written that all public schools, K through 12, have to do instruction on child abuse and child sexual abuse each year. So this lesson will cover those forms of abuse as well. Abuse is any action that intentionally causes harm or injuries to another person. Today we're going to be talking about several different types of abuse, different warning signs, and then what to do if you are experiencing abuse or know someone else who is. Just a warning, as I stated earlier in this lesson, we will be discussing several different types of abuse today. This can be a very hard topic for many of our students and possibly staff. Please be mindful of your own thoughts and feelings and those around you. You never know who has suffered from abuse or witnessed abuse and how they might be feeling. As you are listening to this lesson, you may think, I've never suffered from abuse, this doesn't apply to me. But the odds are at some point in your life, you will know someone who has either suffered from abuse in the past or is currently being abused. It is important to be aware of the warning signs and learn the steps that you can take.
Today's topic is, what is child abuse and neglect? Types, symptoms, treatment, and diagnosis. Child abuse is considered to be any intentional mistreatment or harm of a child under the age of 18. It is considered to be a criminal offense in most of the world and is strictly prosecuted. Child abuse can lead to trauma that stays with the person throughout their life, often hindering their emotional and mental growth. Let's look at child abuse and neglect in detail. Types. There are several types of child abuse, and they often occur at the same time. Physical abuse occurs when a child is subject to physical violence with the intent to harm or injure another person. Sexual abuse involves any sexual activity performed with a child by an adult. This includes exploitation, exposure to pornography, intercourse, and any related sexual act. Emotional abuse occurs when another person intentionally tries to harm a child's emotional well-being and self-esteem. This is usually done through emotional and verbal assault, or by rejecting and isolating a child. Medical abuse involves needlessly exposing a child to the medical care they do not need by providing false information. Along with these, child neglect is recognized as a failure to provide shelter, supervision, affection, education, or medical care to a child. The abuse is usually carried out by people close to and trusted by a child. It is important to report child abuse as soon as you recognize it. Symptoms. Children facing abuse often stay silent about it because they are confused and feel guilty for what they are going through. Some red flags that may appear are 1. Depression and anxiety. 2. A loss of self-confidence. 3. Withdrawal from usual activities and friends. 4. Displaying more aggression and moody behavior. 5. Lack of supervision. 6. Self-harm or suicide attempts. 7. Being absent from school. 8. Not wanting to go back home. 9. Rebellious behavior. Signs of physical abuse are 1. Unexplained injuries and bruises. 2. Lying about the cause of the injuries. Signs of sexual abuse include 1. Engaging in inappropriate sexual contact with other children. 2. Blood in underwear. 3. Sudden pregnancy. Signs of emotional abuse are 1. Delayed emotional development. 2. Depression. 3. Lack of self-confidence. 4. Self-esteem. 5. Social withdrawal. 6. A drop in academic performance. 7. Avoidance of certain situations. Diagnosis. Diagnosing a child can be difficult, as a child may resist talking about their emotions and what they are going through. Diagnosis typically involves 1. A physical examination. 2. X-rays and lab tests. 3. Information on a child's developmental and medical history. 4. assessment of a child's behavior. 5. Observation of parents and caregivers. 6. Conversing with the child and their parents or caregivers. Treatment. Treatment for child abuse helps both children and parents. It is important to get a child treated as early as possible to ensure that their trauma is dealt with before it becomes ingrained in their identity. They will need immediate medical help if they have been physically or sexually abused. Regular therapy, even psychotherapy, may be required for some time to help a child 1. Learn to trust again. 2. Boost their self-esteem. 3. Learn conflict management. 4. Recognize normal behaviors and relationships.
There are several things that you can do to prevent child abuse. 1. Examine your behavior. Abuse is not just physical, both words and actions can inflict deep, lasting wounds. Use your actions to show children and other adults that conflicts can be settled without hitting or yelling. 2. Educate yourself and others. Simple support for children and parents can be the best way to prevent child abuse. After school activities, parent education classes, mentoring programs, and respite care are some of the many ways to help keep children safe from harm. Be a voice in support of these efforts in your community. Teach children their rights. When children are taught they are special and have the right to be safe, they are less likely to think abuse is their fault and more likely to report an offender. Know what child abuse is. Physical and sexual abuse clearly constitute maltreatment, but so does neglect, or the failure of parents or other caregivers to provide a child with needed food, clothing, and care. Children can also be emotionally abused when they are rejected, berated, or continuously isolated. Know the signs. Unexplained injuries aren't the only sign of abuse. Depression, fear of a certain adult, difficulty trusting others or making friends, sudden changes in eating or sleeping patterns, inappropriate sexual behavior, poor hygiene, secrecy, and hostility are often signs of family problems and may indicate a child is being neglected or physically, sexually, or emotionally abused. And lastly, report abuse. If you witness a child being harmed or see evidence of abuse, make a report to your state's Child Protective Services Department or local police. When taking a child or when talking to a child or friend about abuse, listen carefully, assure the child or friend that he or she did the right thing by telling someone, and affirm that he or she is not responsible for what happened. We are going to talk a little bit more about reporting abuse towards the end of this presentation. Another important topic, I think, for high school students is talking about domestic abuse or dating violence. 1 in 3 adults have experienced 1 in 3 adolescents, have experienced some form of relationship abuse. Let's watch this quick video.
I'm only checking your phone because I want this relationship to last.
Go change your clothes. I can't have my partner look better than me when we go out.
You look like you gained weight. Maybe you should skip a meal.
Why would you hang out with your friends when you could be spending time with me?
We need to be on the phone tonight so I know when you're going to sleep.
I had my friends catfish you to make sure you weren't cheating on me.
I broke the condom so we'd be together forever.
You are the most pathetic person I know.
Your family doesn't love you.
I'm the only one who could ever love you.
Why weren't you where I told you to be after school? If you have sex with me, I won't.
Out you to your parents.
I threw away your college acceptance letter. You don't need it anyways.
It's my job to provide and take care of you.
I can't trust you being with anyone else.
I know you're cheating on me. I can't prove it.
I slapped you because you shouldn't talk to me like that.
You should have more respect for me.
I can't have you. No one can.
If you break up with me,
I kill myself.
I'm gonna hurt you. You're worthless.
I experienced the emotional, mental abuse, financial abuse, isolation, manipulation, controlling, physical abuse, and sexual abuse. I'm Maya Pribble, and I'm a survivor of teen dating violence. I think the cycle of abuse, it starts with the honeymoon period and the gifts and taking me out to eat. And then it started with the emotional abuse and the little comments here and there. And then something big would happen, and it would be a really big escalation of verbal abuse or sexual abuse. He would wrap me back in by telling me that he loved me and he's sorry and he didn't mean it. And I would try and call him out on the things that he did. Like, you raped me. And he would say, no, I didn't. I would never do that. I love you. I always had the excuse of love. Love means that you can do whatever you want to your partner. And I didn't realize that that was wrong. I knew something was wrong about it, but I didn't know how to fight it. I was getting ready to go to post-secondary school for my senior year of high school. I was watching those training videos on sexual violence. They had asked a lot of questions like, are you experiencing this or that? And I checked all of the boxes. And I knew that in that moment, that I was definitely in an abusive relationship and everybody was right. I had this mentality that I had to prove everybody wrong. But in that moment, everything came crashing down. I just have this drive to be able to help other victims and survivors, to let them know that it's okay. I've been through this and you can get through this. So I think that's how I'm able to talk about it, just because I know that it'll help so many other people by sharing my story and just letting them know that there is hope. There is hope, and you can survive. You are a survivor, and you will overcome this.
Here are some of the warning signs of dating violence or domestic abuse. Using insults, intimidation, or humiliation, extreme jealousy, insecurity, or controlling behaviors, isolation from friends and family, unwanted sexual contact of any kind, explosive temper or unusual moodiness, constantly monitoring social media activities or location, invasion of privacy, showing up unannounced, leaving unwanted items such as gifts or flowers, abusing alcohol or drugs, threatening or causing physical violence, scratches, or bruises. If you're experiencing dating violence, what should you do? Number one would just be okay with uncomfortable conversations. If it just is a small thing that's going on in your relationship, you need to talk about it early on. Don't let things spiral out of control. Practice healthy communication. And if things continue to escalate, obviously seek help and support. Tell someone. We're going to talk about that a little bit more towards the end. And then if things aren't, first of all, if there's extreme violence or sexual abuse, definitely want to get out of that relationship right away. But if the smaller things are happening, like arguments or some of the things that we talked about previously, like the insults, intimidation, jealousy, insecurity, if those things are going on and you can talk about it and fix it and get it resolved, then that's great. But if those things continue, then obviously you would eventually want to leave that relationship. Okay, so we've talked about lots of different forms of abuse today and the common signs of those different forms of abuse. Obviously, if you yourself are suffering from abuse, then it is important to get some help and tell a trusted adult. Although sometimes it's a little bit easier to tell a friend first. And so this slide is talking about if you have a friend who tells you that they are suffering from abuse, here is what you can do. Obviously, the first thing is just to listen and believe their story, hear them out, remind them that it is not their fault. One of the biggest steps is just listening to their story. The second thing is oftentimes your friend, if your friend tells you that they are suffering from abuse, they might want to keep it a secret and not tell anyone else, just tell you. But remind them that this is too serious of a problem to handle without help from another adult. Offer to go with the friend to tell the adult. Sometimes the friend might have trouble talking about what has happened to them, so remind them that it is okay to, maybe write it out in a note or a text message or an email to that safe adult they plan to tell. Sometimes it is very difficult to talk about it out loud, so maybe writing it down might be helpful. It is also important to maybe help your friend choose a supportive adult if they can't think of someone to tell. Remind them, possibly their parents, possibly a school counselor, administrator, teacher, coach, anyone who is a supportive and trusted adult in your guys' lives. And it might also be helpful to help your friend practice talking to that adult. maybe talking through the situation and how that conversation might go, practice what they're going to say, and maybe write some notes down about what they specifically want to tell that trusted adult. If your friend is still reluctant to tell, even after walking them through the steps here on this slide, it is important to give them a little bit of time to try to tell that trusted adult, but if they don't, then you yourself need to go get help for them. And you can do that, again, by telling a trusted adult, and they will be able to hook you up with the correct resources to get your friend help. And ultimately, we just don't ever want any abuse to happen again. So the important step to stop that from happening again is to let somebody know so that, law enforcement or someone can stop this from happening, that perpetrator from hurting someone again. Okay, obviously we've covered a lot today. I know this is kind of a heavy topic, but it is really important to know the different signs of abuse and the different types of abuse and ways of getting help. So I have listed on this website some different hotline numbers that you can call if you yourself are experiencing abuse or know someone who is, and also some different websites with more information as well. Some of these phone numbers on here are local specific. Obviously, the Muncie Police Department Victims Advocate is a line that you can call that is local as well. Thanks for listening today, and have a great rest of your day.